Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to the BrooklyniteTV Podcast. We dive deep into the issues that matter most in Brooklyn and beyond. Today, it's about America, and I'm your host, Frank, and in today's episode, we're breaking down the 2024 election results and what they really mean for the future of this country. Donald Trump's stunning victory on election night wasn't just about his comeback, it was about a resounding rejection of Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, and the failed liberal Democratic agenda and the entire Biden-Harris administration. We'll explore why her message didn't resonate with voters and how her time as vice president left a lot to be desired. So stick around because we've got a lot to unpack about this pivotal moment in American politics. The 2024 presidential election was one of the most consequential in American history. A fierce battle between two distinctly different visions for the future of this country culminated in a result that sent shockwaves across the political landscape. From trying to kill Donald Trump 2 times, to colluding, to imprisoning him, to censoring him, to weaponizing the government against him, to calling him a Hitler and spreading false lies, Donald Trump, despite all this and despite being out of office and faced with numerous challenges, defied all the odds and won back the trust of millions of Americans who were dissatisfied with the trajectory of the nation under Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. The people have spoken, and in rejecting Kamala Harris's message, they made it clear that they were looking for a change and indeed looking to turn the page. The outcome of this election wasn't just about Donald Trump's appeal as a leader. It was about a growing discontent with the policies and the lack of tangible results delivered by the Biden administration. Many Americans, especially those in key battleground states, appeared to be fed up with the direction this country was heading under Kamala Harris's influence and her role as vice president. Kamala Harris, from the moment she was picked as Joe Biden's running mate, embodied the liberal elite's attempt to pander to didn't-earn-it identity politics, but her tenure in office revealed her incompetence, poor messaging, and ability to connect with the heart of America. The Democratic Party's reliance on her solely as a symbol of diversity, a woman of color, only served to highlight her weaknesses as a leader, and ultimately her candidacy for 2024 failed miserably. The years leading up to 2024 election were defined by political turmoil, economic strain, and a growing sense that the American people had been left behind once again by their government. The Biden administration, along with Kamala Harris as vice president, was consistently criticized for its mishandling of key issues like the border crisis, rising inflation, overreaching, and an inconsistent immigration policy, a disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, and a steady erosion of American values in the face of their progressive radicalism. Kamala Harris, in particular, was viewed as ineffective, and her role in shaping policy was minimal. Her time in office was marked by a series of gaffes, contradictory statements, and a failure to make meaningful strides on issues that mattered most to everyday Americans. Her approval ratings were consistently low, and even within her own party, doubts about her leadership abilities began to surface. Kamala Harris's message, often built around divisive rhetoric, identity politics, and a vague promise of progressive change, fell flat for many voters. While her campaign and public speeches frequently touched on themes of racial justice, gender equality, and economic equity, these ideals were rarely connected to any concrete plan on how to achieve them. Instead, she seemed to focus on pandering to specific demographic groups rather than offering solutions that resonated with a broad cross-section of the American electorate. In contrast, like I stated in previous podcasts, Donald Trump's message in 2024 was clear, direct, and rooted in the idea of returning America to greatness. His platform promised to restore jobs, reduce government overreach, secure the border, and bring back the policies that made America strong under his first term. Voters who had felt abandoned by the left-wing agenda, especially in the middle class, flocked to his candidacy. viewing it as a rejection of the progressive elitist policies championed by the Biden-Harris administration. Kamala Harris' candidacy for the 2024 election was already on shaky ground from the start. Despite being chosen as Biden's running mate to appeal to a certain voter demographic, her performance as vice president revealed her deep political weaknesses. From the very beginning, her role in the administration seemed more symbolic than substantive, and her public appearances often lacked the gravities one would expect from someone in the second highest office in the land. One of the primary critiques of Kamala Harris during her vice presidency was her utter failure to assert any real leadership on any key issue. Her most high-profile task, handling the U.S.-Mexico border crisis, was a total and complete utter disaster, to say the least. Instead of taking charge of the situation or offering a coherent, pragmatic solution, Harris largely remained silent, or worse, offered statements that were out of touch with the severity of the problem. She was ridiculed for her confusing response to the situation, including her dismissive "don't come" comments, which were seen as a superficial gesture that did little to address the root causes of the crisis. Her tenure also saw the rise of inflation and economic instability, but Harris was consistently absent from any meaningful discussion or efforts to stabilize the economy. While President Biden was often the face of the administration, Harris seemed regulated to ceremonial role, offering platitudes and symbolic gestures instead of actionable policies. Her policy proposals, which leaned heavily on the expansion of government programs, were often criticized as unrealistic, and they did little to win over the voters in the heartland who were already disillusioned with the status quo. Moreover, Harris's communication skills, or lack thereof, were a constant source of frustration for both her supporters and critics. Time and time again, she stumbled over simple questions in interviews. She delivered speeches that were incoherent and failed to convey a sense of urgency or leadership on the most pressing issues. I am not all surprised that she lost. In fact, I had been saying this from the start in almost every podcast regarding this topic, that she will lose. Her inability to connect with the American public, especially in moments when the country needed strong leadership, was a key factor in why we are all ready to move on. In many ways, Kamala Harris's candidacy became a reflection of the Democratic Party's broader problems. Rather than addressing the real, lived concern of voters, the party had become obsessed with identity politics, killing babies, LGBTQ rights, and virtual signaling. Harris, as the face of this movement, struggled to break through the growing sense of disillusionment that many Americans felt about the state of the nation. One of the most glaring problems with Kamala Harris's message was her constant focus on division and identity politics. Harris was often portrayed as a symbol of diversity, the first woman of color to serve as vice president. But just like Obama did, rather than uniting the country, her rhetoric and policy proposals only seemed to deepen the divide. She leaned heavily into issues of race and gender, often framing the country's problems as a battle between the oppressed and privileged groups. While it is true that race and gender inequalities are issues in America, Harris's approach seemed to exacerbate rather than resolve the problems. She frequently framed every problem in terms of systematic oppression, and her speeches often became across as more about grandstanding than about offering any solution. This divisive approach ultimately failed to resonate with the majority of Americans, particularly in battleground states. Voters wanted a candidate who could unite the country and offer a positive, forward-thinking vision, and that was not Kamala Harris. Instead, she perpetuated a vision of America as a country divided along racial and gender lines, which too many people, it seemed, out of touch with the reality they were living in. The people have spoken. The people have spoken. When the 2024 election results came in, the message from the American people was clear. They indeed wanted to turn the page. Donald Trump's victory was a reflection of the deep dissatisfaction many people felt with the direction of this country. The Trump message, one of economic growth, strong borders, and return to traditional American values, resonated with voters who had felt ignored and marginalized by the current political establishment. In many ways, Trump's victory was not just about rejecting Kamala Harris, but about rejecting the entire liberal agenda that had dominated Washington in recent years. Voters had watched as Biden's administration had failed to tackle issues like inflation, crime, and immigration. Meanwhile, Harris's divisiveness, rhetoric, and lackluster leadership only made things worse. For many Americans, Trump's campaign offered a sense of hope and renewal. His straightforward approach to leadership, his commitment to American interests, and his ability to speak directly to the concerns of the ordinary citizens won him back the trust of the voters who had previously been disillusioned by the political class. The American people have spoken. They were done with the failed policies of the past and are ready for a new direction. And all I could say to this is, thank God. Thank you, God. The 2024 election marked a clear turning point in American politics. Kamala Harris's candidacy was rejected by the voters who were fed up with her ineffective leadership, divisive rhetoric, and empty promises. Her phoniness, her tenure as vice president was a disaster, and her message, one of division and weak leadership, failed to resonate with the American people. In contrast, Donald Trump's victory signaled the desire for change, for return to policies that prioritize the needs of American citizens over progressive ideas of the left. As the country moves forward, the results of the 2024 election serves as a powerful reminder that the American people are looking for real leadership that unites, strengthens, and protects their values that have made this country great. Kamala Harris's message may have failed, but the lessons learned from the election will undoubtedly shape the political landscape for years to come. And before we go, I have one last message for the Democrats and the globalist elites. For the last several years, we've sat back, jaw wide open, and witnessed an all-out effort to discredit, investigate, and even silence our beloved President Donald Trump. From the Mueller investigation to 2 impeachments, to relentless media smears and raids and legal battles, the Democrats and globalist elites have tried everything to take him down. But here's the thing. Trump isn't just a fighter, he's a survivor. He's a New Yorker. Every time they tried to bury him, he's come back stronger, more determined, and with even more resilience and support from us, the American people. Now, after years of what many seem as unjust, coordinated attacks, the tides have just turned. So let me make this clear. Retribution is coming. And this isn't about revenge. It's about holding those accountable, those who tried to destroy his life, his reputation, and his movement. The Democrats, globalists who weaponized the justice system, the bureaucrats who abused their power, the media that spread the lies, social media companies who censored, the ones who disintegrated our American values, they've sown the seeds of their own reckoning. With the power of the American people behind him, Trump is returning to the Oval Office with specific goals in mind. Bring back the economy, restore justice, completely drain the swamp, and hold the elites accountable for the damage they have caused to this country. Make no mistake, people, this is a movement of restoration. The Democrats and the globalist establishment may think they've won over the past 4 years with the open border, unleashing 10 million plus people into this country illegally, and all the other bullshit and damage they did to this country. But rest assured, Trump's retribution is coming. The same people who tried to break him are about to feel the consequences. This election wasn't just about politics. This was a battle for the future of America. And Trump's retribution, it's not just for him. It's for every American who believes in justice and freedom. Stay tuned, because the best is yet to come. So congratulations, Donald J. Trump, the 47th President of the United States. Together, let's make America great again. So that's it for today's episode of the Brooklynite TV Podcast, people. If you found this discussion insightful, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share this episode with your friends. We're just getting started, and we'll be continuing to bring you the latest and most important stories affecting our community and the country. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe so you never miss another update. Until next time, everyone, keep thinking critically and keep questioning the status quo, always. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode right here next time. Take care.